So let's talk about creating a sales commission plan, all right? Now, most of you feel like this when you think about hiring, managing, and paying salespeople, or maybe that's just me. That's the way I kind of feel. But they're not. I mean, you get good ones, they're great. I always make the joke, all right? So there's 4 keys to success in this, and it's not just compensation. I know this is about compensation, but I got to make sure you understand there's a bigger picture here. One is you got to hire the right people, obviously. If you hire a dud, I don't care what the compensation plan is. Compensation plans alone don't motivate people to perform. How many of you have hired a salesperson and for the life of you, you cannot figure out why they don't be more aggressive, follow up more and everything else because you're like, you'll make more money? Am I the only one? Like you hire somebody and you go, holy shit, right? If you would just come in an hour earlier and make this many more calls, you'd make this much more money. Money alone isn't the right thing. You got to hire the right people. You have to have a very competitive compensation plan and culture to attract and keep right people. You got to give them a plan to hit quota. That backwards planning I just talked about, you need to have that in place so they know exactly how many activities they need to do to make the money that they want to make and you get the ROI that you want, and you got to manage them to execute the plan. So it's not just compensation, it's all of these things, right? And the key thing is when you're thinking about hiring salespeople, this is so important, you got to ask yourself, what do I need to invest, not what can I afford to pay? Because if you say, I had a member the other day who was trying desperately to hire an appointment setter and pay them $10 an hour. And I said, dude, it's never going to work. You'll hire somebody because somebody will take that job. And then a month in, 2 months in, you will have wasted a ton of your time and a ton of your money, unless you get lucky. And this guy's not very lucky, all right? So you got to think in terms, what do I need to invest? So some general compensation plans or plan advice is always have a quota and a minimum to keep their job. Now, this is the thing I'm really surprised about because I did some research with a number of MSPs and asked what their sales compensation plan looked like. And better than, I think it was like 40% had salespeople that have no quota. Now, quota is you need to bring in $4,000 a month in new MRR to keep your job. That's a quota. In other words, there's a certain dollar amount they have to bring in, or appointments they've got to set, or upsells they got to make, or whatever it is. It's a quota. They have to hit that goal. You have to have that and here's the minimum you need to keep your job, okay? For our SDRs, our appointment setters, they have to get 21 appointments a month to keep their job. If they fail month 1, they're coached. If they accept the coaching, great. We'll keep playing if they're showing improvement and they're working. But if they go into month 2 and they have not hit their quota, they're done. They're fired. Because the cost of that employee, I need a minimum of 21 in order to cover those costs. And how long am I going to let that money I'm losing money on them. So salespeople understand that this is the game. Always have some part of their compensation to be performance-based, meaning you get a bonus, you get a commission based on what you bring in, pay based on gross margin or contribution margin, or fix your prices so you can absolutely ensure that you hit the right profit. So what I mean by this is don't let your salespeople go rogue and price things cheap to win a deal and then still get a commission. So if you want, now some companies, some MSPs say, well, we let the salespeople calculate the price, and if they want more money, they raise the prices so there's more gross margin and they get more money. That's fine, but I prefer fixed pricing. Let me figure out what the price is, and this is what we charge, and you cannot discount off that, or you do not get any commission, period. So my salespeople, if they discount off of something and they have not gotten prior approval, they get 0 commission. And if they keep doing it, they're going to be fired. So you got to make sure you set those rules so you protect your margins. If you want a rep to focus on selling something, you might make the commission higher on it or sell or give a bonus. So you might say, we really want to focus on selling these 20 customers who are break fix on the managed services, and so I'm going to give you a bonus of $500 for every additional money for everyone that you get on our managed services agreement or whatever. Just so that's another way to have them focus. You might also give them a higher percentage if they close a longer-term contract. A lot of MSPs do that. So a 12-year contract, you get this percentage, and a 36-month contract, you get a higher percentage. Now, I'll get more. I know it's raising more questions than it's answering, but we'll get into it. Here's another thing. If your margins are tight, or you just even if they're not tight, one of the things you can do is you can have an onboarding fee. It's very, very common for MSPs to charge the first month's MRR double and call it like an onboarding fee. And basically what you then can do with that commission, say it's $2,000 a month, you charge $4,000 for the first month, and that way you get your $2,000 and you give the other to the sales rep. You give them the first month. So that's another way of covering your costs. It's not that hard to sell. And if you got a salesperson who's good, they should be able to do that with no problem whatsoever. And don't pay on recurring revenue, because they're going to get fat and they're going to stop hunting. And that's account managers and that's hunters. And it's a big, big, big mistake. Pay them their commission. If they're a hunter, pay them a big fat commission for getting that deal. And then they got to go, then no more. Because you're taking the hit up front because of the marketing and sales cost. The customer acquisition cost is going to cost you a lot. You get the benefit on the residuals, okay? So there's different types of comp. I'll just go through this quick. There's base salary. There's commission. Commission is paid on collected money. Collected money can be based on top line gross margin. Draw is an advance that you can pay a salesperson that they later take out of a commission. So if, let's say a salesperson needs to make, let's say they need to make $5,000 a month. And the commission plan you have will get them there, but your base is only going to give them $2,000 a month. You might say, okay, I'm going to give you $2,000 a month for the first 3 months, and then that $6,000 I'm going to take out a future commission. So that's called a draw. Bonuses, lump sum of money based on hitting a goal. You can do spiffs. Spiffs are sales performance incentive funds. I don't know what the extra F is. I Googled it. I couldn't figure that out, but there's always a second F in there. That could be prizes. That could be extra paid time off. That could be vacations, all these things. And extra paid time off is another way to incentivize people, benefits, and of course, stock options. Okay, so these are all different ways you can comp. There's 5 primary sales roles. So people were asking me yesterday, who do I hire first? Where do I start? Okay, so I used to say there was 4, but I've added this on. There's sales support. Now, sales support is like a marketing admin role, and they are doing either the marketing and or they're doing the tech that supports the sales team, right? SDR, sales development rep, or business development rep, that's your appointment setter. Their job is to call, follow up on inbound leads, and follow up on marketing campaigns, and their sole purpose in life is to book appointments for you and your senior sales team. That's an SDR, sales development rep, sometimes called a BDR, but business development rep. We call them SDRs because BDR in this industry means something else, all right? An account manager or customer success rep, you'll hear them called, or CSR, inside sales rep or farmer, is somebody who is working with your existing customer accounts. They're not hunting and getting new. They're only doing like maybe your QBRs, or they're the ones that your customer reaches out to when they have an issue, or when they added 2 new employees and need to be quoted for 2 new laptops or whatever that is. Number 4 is your account executive. That's the outside sales hunter, the closer, and then you have a sales manager. Okay? I would recommend, well, every situation is a little bit different, but in general, you're going to start out with sales support because most of you are the salesperson. Then you're going to hire the SDR. Then, depending on how many accounts, you either go for a hunter or an account manager, and at some point, you're going to have to hire a sales manager. Now, if Jack Daly was on the stage, what would Jack Daly tell you all? Hire the sales manager first, okay? The reality is, and I know I have a question over here, right? So the reality is, a sales manager is going to cost you quite a bit of money, and I didn't do that. Don't tell Jack. So I kind of cobbled myself as sales manager until I had about 4 salespeople, and then I hired a sales manager. Yes, sir.
Morning.
Morning.
So when you mentioned pay the commission when you're paid,
right?
We do a money-back guarantee, which if you aren't doing it, do it. It's fantastic. We've never had anyone take us up on it, But how do you handle commission in that sense where 30 days, 60 days, whatever, the customer backs out?
If were it me, and if it were my fault, meaning we screwed something up and pissed off the customer, I would not claw back that commission.
Okay.
If it was that the sales rep said, look, just try us out for 90 days and we'll give you your money back, I'd claw that back. So what I would do is in the commission plan say if there is a money back guarantee, that money, your commission comes back to, if it's triggered, it comes back to the company. However, I would be on, so that's in the contract, so that's why it's clear, right? However, if I, as the business owner, knew it was our fault, like one of my engineers screwed up, the onboarding didn't go as well as planned, and they said, screw this, I'm out, I would not penalize my salesperson for that. So I would, in the commission contract, claw it back, but then be generous on the front end.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so let me give you the roles real quick. So the sales support role, they're responsible for the administrative details to maximize the productivity of the sales team. And that might be sending out marketing to generate leads, putting together the shock and awe box, pulling reports for the CEO, how many appointments, how many leads, how many were qualified. And they might even be managing the tech, the dialer, the appointment core, all those things, right? That person's base salary, usually only no commission, and they're about 40 to 65,000. Now, if you need an advanced CRM specialist like we have on our team because of the sophistication of the marketing, those people can be anywhere from 60,000 to 120,000 if they're managing all the technology. And I'm talking about sophisticated back-end technology. Most of you don't need that because you got Sherpas with us or whatever, right? But I just had to make sure you knew that. So that's sales support. The SDR, BDR, appointment setter, is an entry-level sales role, and their purpose in life is to handle all inbound leads, to book appointments, confirm appointments, send out the shock and awe, and cold call, if you will, following up on campaigns, call to book appointments. Their typical compensation is going to be 70% is going to be base and 30% is going to be variable, and their on-target earnings is going to have to be somewhere between 44,000 and 65,000. Now, this compensation plan, I went over that role in detail in the new appointment generating miracle, and everybody in this room has access to it. So when you're ready, I have my job scorecards, I have the ads, I have the interview process, I have all of those things, this compensation plan, an ROI calculator, the scripts, everything, all of you have that. So that is very mapped out and very detailed. Okay, now the next is the account manager. This is the customer success person, the inside sales rep, the farmer, and they are responsible for managing the client after the sale happens. So they're responsible for finding new opportunities within existing clients, renewing contracts, upselling contracts, cross-selling new services, and looking for referrals. And this would also be the go-to person that your customer is assigned to in order to, now some of you have an engineer who is in this role. As long as they have a sales quota, I think it's okay, but most of the time you want somebody who's going to be commissioned. Now the compensation in this role, this is where it gets a little squirrely because it really depends. So like Robert Herjavec, the Herjavec Group, has one of his highest paid people is an account manager, and he manages their top 20 customers. I think it's top 20 or top 15. And that dude is making millions because these accounts are big. They're going in, they're selling projects, they're selling cybersecurity solutions. So in that case, that guy's making a lot of money. Now, if for some of you, you don't need somebody that high protein because your customers are smaller, right? So on this person, the typical base and bonus is going to be 60% base and 40% is going to be variable, and the on-target earnings is 65,000 to 100,000. Okay, some general guidelines. Consider paying them on the increase in MRR to manage clients. So not the current MRR. So somebody goes outside sales hunter, here's a $1,000 account. And over time, they upsell them a little bit, and let's say they go back and they sell them an advanced cybersecurity package, and it's not $1,200 a month, they get another $500 a month in MRR, pay them that first month $500. That's one way of doing that, right? And that, so they would get, that's one piece of their compensation. Now, the other piece of their compensation is going to be based on projects, because that's mostly what they're going to be quoting. And what you want to do is pay them a percentage of gross margin on projects sold after they're completed and collected. Gross margin is contribution margin for my Greg Crabtree people. So that's after hardware costs, software, labor. And you're going to pay them roughly somewhere between 8 and 12% of that contribution margin. And you can pay them on hardware as long as the hardware margin is high enough. So you can't pay that if you're basically only making 2% margin, right? Doesn't make sense. But 8 to 12% of contribution margin for projects is about right, okay? So they can get paid money for projects. They can get paid for upsell on new MRR, and consider giving them a bonus for referrals. Now, another thing I'm going to be working on for all of you, because this is going to be a session that it's going to take more in depth, and I want to do it on a webinar because I think that allows people to process this a little different. You can take notes, you can have the slides in front of you and everything, but we will be doing more on this with like Paul Sissel and Greg Crabtree and coming up with these comp plans. The challenge I have is if I go out to 100 MSPs and say, give me your compensation plans, most of what I see, there's mixed dogs. So they have account managers who are managing existing customers, and they're also hunters, and they're also setting their own appointments. So you guys mostly have Swiss Army knives, and the comp plan's all over the place. So it's really hard to kind of to say, here's this plan and here's this plan. But we will be working on this, and everybody in the room, even those of you in the back, I'll make sure that we include you in that. So this boot camp's not over now. We will definitely give you more on this in a later session. Then there's the account executive. That's the hunter, the outside salesperson, the closer, and they are in a traditional sales role. Their number one responsibility is to find and close new accounts, new logos is what you might hear, right? And they're networking. They go to networking events. They prospect for new opportunities. They work on those getting ready to buy customers. They follow up until they're ready to buy. They can ask for referrals, but they are basically negotiating those contracts and new customer acquisition. And to get that kind of person, base is no more than 50% of on-target earnings, because you want them highly on the commission side, and their on-target earnings is going to have to be somewhere from $120 to $300,000. I have been recruiting salespeople, and I'm telling you, the cost of these people has gone up exponentially. So again, for most of you, this is going to be too expensive of a hire for you to make just yet. So another thing you can do is you can hire an account executive or account manager, someone with existing clients, and if they show promise, move them into outside sales. And you want to comp these people. Now, total earnings for this particular person should be no more than 33% of the annual MRR gross margin sold. All right, let me give you an example. If they close $5,000 in new MRR every month, let's say that that's their quota. You got to bring in 5,000. Maybe the minimum they need to bring in is 2,000 to keep their job, but 5,000 is their quota. That's 60,000 in annual recurring revenue. If service gross margin is 50%, 60,000 represents 30,000 in new gross margin. Therefore, that rep would get roughly 10,000 that month in total comp, base plus commission, and earn 120,000 a year. At a $60,000 base, that's 5,000 in salary and 5,000 in commission for the first month of MRR. So a really easy way to do this is give them the first month of MRR if your margins are correct. Question, Charles? Is that you, Charles?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
So our lead gen is slow at the moment.
Okay.
If I hired an outside salesperson, I don't have a bunch of leads don't have 4 qualified leads for them to chase every week. What's a day in their life look like? Or is it not time to hire them because we don't have enough leads to feed them?
Well, most organizations, like if you interview salespeople, I always, especially outside, how did you generate your leads? How were they generated? Most companies, these outside sales hunters, they have to generate their own. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's the way it is, right? So what I think I would do if you're recruiting, look for somebody who's sold, maybe they're recruit them from your competition. As long as there's not some kind of non-compete or whatever, you don't want to entangle in that. Hire somebody who's sold copiers, office equipment. Find somebody who sold something to the customers that you want that
Okay.
maybe is non-competitive, because what they'll bring with them is all those relationships, right?
True.
So in that case, you could say, look, you sold copiers, I don't know, whatever. And we're going to bring you in here, we're going to help you sell managed services, right? And you would sit down and help them come up with a prospecting campaign. So they would have to be their own SDR, meaning they're going to have to book their own appointments. And you'd say, okay, what networking groups? And you would work with them. Maybe you go to your existing customers and you ask for referrals, right? And you start to gin up some referrals for them. But yeah, you could hire somebody. You just have to be clear in the beginning that you're going to have to be generating your own leads and your own appointments. And here's some marketing we're going to help you with. But ultimately, it's up to you. Now, I've had some members also hire that outside salesperson and pair them up. At least do this for them. Give them an admin. Don't have them licking envelopes, and don't have them doing
Right.
that. So pair them up with an admin that can send out some campaigns, but they would be making the follow-up calls to book their own appointments. That's what I would do.
Okay.
Yeah. But you could hire somebody.
So
Yeah.
they could be SDR on your aspirin campaign also?
Yeah, I mean, they're calling and following up to book their own appointments.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm fine with that. Ideally, if you get a really good closer, I'm going to pair them up with an SDR. So their maximum productivity is not trying to find a needle in a haystack. Their maximum productivity is they wake up on Monday morning and there's 12 appointments on their calendar and they're negotiating and closing and following up, because that's their highest value. Just like a surgeon, when they walk into the OR, the operating room, they shouldn't be cleaning stuff and setting it up. They have a prep team, so that surgeon comes in, does the surgery, does what he or she is best at, and then they walk out. That's what, if you get a really high protein person, and if you hire that person and they do a good job and they can close, then you quickly find them an SDR to make them more productive. Yes, sir.
Would you structure the commission differently if it was a lead that they hunted and found and brought in on their own versus one that we paid for all the marketing to bring that lead in?
You could, but now when you pay commission every month, it's a pain in the ass. So I would say no. Yeah, I would just pay them. It doesn't matter. And you want to give them some gimmies. Look, guys, salespeople, really good ones, do not have to work for you. They can go work anywhere they want and they can make big money, because there's companies that are 10 times your size, that have 10 times your revenue and more marketing than you, and they want to hire a good salesperson. So you think about it, they go to a big company, you have a lot of opportunity to make a lot of money where there's good marketing and they have lists and they have sales support and they have CRM. You see what I mean? So don't be cheap, because if you're cheap, you're not going to get the best talent. And then the final role is the sales manager, and that's their responsibility is to grow the sales team in quantity, meaning number of reps, and quality to make sure. Now, these people do not carry a quota per se, so they should never be responsible for closing sales. That's not to say they don't assist. Chris Meese, who's my new sales manager, is out in the sales booth, and he is assisting in closing sales, but he's not getting a commission. All right? He's like helping the new guys. He's helping Aaron to close the deal, right? And so Aaron gets the commission. Sales managers help their salespeople close deals, book appointments, etc. But they don't carry a quota. What they do carry is a goal. Here's how you have to perform. So the typical compensation for a sales manager is going to be 70 to 80% is going to be base, and 30 to 20% is going to be a variable. Their on-target earning is going to be about 100 to 170,000, and the sales manager, note this, is often not the highest paid person on your team. And they know that. If they're a sales manager, they know this, because it's one of my interview questions. I say, if you came on here as a rep with me, you could make double this. Why don't you want to be a rep? And they're like, that's just not my skill set. I like coaching. I like helping. I'm a salesperson. Like, I don't want to manage people. I want to go hunt and make big money. That's how I'm wired. But not everybody's wired like me. And so you got to keep that in mind when you're hiring that sales manager. They might not be the highest compensated person on your team. Are they money motivated? Yes, they are. But they're more like they thrive and they get a lot of enjoyment out of helping other people, seeing them grow, coaching, etc. Right? So ballpark compensation, give them a smaller percentage of gross margin for both new and existing. So they are growing sales for your organization. Growing sales, meaning they are growing new customer acquisition, and in your current client base, they are growing as well. Consider budgeting a portion of their compensation as a quarterly bonus for targets. So for example, you might say, okay, we're gonna give you, I don't know, $70,000 as a base. You're gonna get 4%, maybe you do it on a scaled percentage of every, of new business closed. You're gonna get this percent. And just like your rep, if your rep gets the first month of commission, your sales rep gets 1% of the first month of commission, right? Or wherever. So you give them that, but you might say, all right, so we're going to pay you $70,000. You're going to make another $30,000 if you hit your target for sales growing in this organization. And I'm going to create a quarterly bonus pool of $4,000. So every quarter you have an opportunity to earn another $1,000. And the reason I do that is because I have different things I want them to focus on. So Missy, who's my manager, business development manager of the SDR reps, and Chris, every quarter they'll have it's like a discretional bonus that they will earn, because every quarter I change it though. So like last quarter, Q1 for my sales managers was hiring and onboarding new reps because we needed to build the team. So I said, okay, you're gonna get an extra bonus if you get me 3 more SDRs and 2 more program consultants. Right? Because I want them, because that's part of their job, because we have to grow the sales team. Getting your sales playbook documented might be one. Getting sales for a specific product. These are all things that like MSP launch kicked off. And Chris's goal was we got to get 50 new MSP launch by the end of the first quarter, right? And we hit that, by the way. Increasing average contract value and close rates, okay? Now there's a virtual question. What's the typical revenue size for a company able to have the sales team you are describing? Well, you don't hire them all at once, okay? So I can't say here's, I'll give you some, I'm gonna answer that in a second, okay? So who do you hire first and when? So I think this is gonna help answer this question, right? So if you're at 1.5 or under, I would suggest that you hire a junior marketing admin, and that's probably where I would start first. If you have that, then an SDR, someone who's booking appointments. So if you're under 1.5 million, those would be the 2 hires, and out of the 2, the marketing admin first, because they can organize your marketing and build your lists, and they can help with some lead generation and so forth, and then hire an SDR and pair them up, and then you're the owner, you're gonna be the one going on appointments, okay? 2 million, start looking at an account manager and or hunter. Maybe you blend the role. I'm not a real big fan of that, but I understand if you're small, you might blend the role, like here's 50 customers that I need you to manage and, hunt. It's not ideal, because what happens when you blend the role? So if you blend a role of an account manager who's managing existing customers and an outside sales hunter, it's not impossible to find somebody who can do both, but typically people tend to be better at one or the other. So the account manager will end up just nurturing clients and never hunting, or they just go out and hunt new business and they ignore your existing customer who calls up and says, I need a new laptop. And they're thinking, well, shit, I'm gonna make $50 on that sale. I wanna go out and hunt new business, so they're gonna neglect your existing customers. That's why I don't like blending the roles, okay? Because they're kind of 2 different mindsets. But if you're small, if Jack Daly was here, he'd kill me. If you're small, you can blend the roles, okay? Don't tell Jack, because he'll yell at me. And then if you're 5 million above, start thinking about separating different teams, outside sales hunter, account manager, start looking for a more experienced marketing leader, and start looking for a sales manager, okay? So now here's the deal. This is just general. You might be at 0 revenue and you might hire a sales manager and 2 outside, like you heard David. David said yesterday, he said, what did he do? He hired 2 sales reps before he hired engineers. Now that takes some stones, but it worked out. So you don't have to be a certain revenue to afford this, because what salespeople are, they're an investment into the future growth. So like I said, you don't go, what can I afford today? Because if you ask what you can afford today, it's probably nothing. So you say, what am I willing to invest to get those new customers. So that's a different way of thinking about it. That's why I'm saying you might say, hey, we're going to build the sales team. We're less than $1 million, but we're going to hire a sales manager and 2 SDRs and 3 outside sales hunters, and we're going to just crush it. It's going to cost you. It's going to cost you more, and you won't get that ROI right away. But now what we're talking about is a cash flow issue. We're not talking about, there's no law saying you can't hire people or when to hire people. It's a cash flow issue. Can you cash flow it? Can you make that team as productive as possible, as quickly as possible? I mean, that's what we're talking about. Yes, sir.
So when we don't always, from a standpoint of revenue coming in, it's not all MRR IT services.
Right, it's projects.
So like we have some projects, we do some low voltage wiring, things like that. So in consideration, do you look at your full revenue, or are you trying to look more towards your MRR revenue?
No, this is full
to make
revenue.
the decision.
This is full revenue. But again, you can hire anybody you want anytime. When you want to grow, you hire salespeople, right? Because you guys are running the company. So your leads are going to slip through, and follow-up's not going to happen as well as it should, right? Because you guys are CEOs, you're busy. And I think that's one of the reasons why companies don't grow, and including myself. I learned this, I had to take this lesson myself. You're really good, you kind of do everything. So you're butcher, baker, candlestick maker, you take out the trash as well as meet with executive. I mean, you're doing it all. And people come to me and they're like, I don't have enough leads. Well, what are you doing for marketing? Well, I'm doing this. Why aren't you doing A, B, C, D, and E, and F? Time. Well, why aren't you hire somebody? No money, right? Well, you're screwed, right? You either got to hire people and get them productive as quickly as possible. And it's a bet, guys, and you're going to make mistakes. You're going to hire duds. You're going to screw it up. You're going to lose money. Welcome to being an entrepreneur, right? That's the game we're playing, right? Believe me, I have made mistakes with zeros on the end, multiple. It's, expensive, but I call it tuition. Just don't make it twice. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I get
Darren?
what you're
Okay.
saying about not combining an account manager with a hunter.
Yeah.
Is it just as bad or worse to try to combine an SDR with an account manager as one person?
Again, not all people are all the same, right? But I would say an SDR who's making appointments is a little different than an account manager. It's a different type of person. It's a different role.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. All right. So how to make sure they're successful? Set really clear expectations. Number 1, words that kill clarity is generate more sales dials. Just do more. Well, what do you mean more? Do you mean 5 more? Do you mean 100 more? Make progress on. So these are words like we hope to achieve better results. We'd like you to work on. I want to enhance our market. These are words that kill clarity. So one of the things I gave you in the handouts is our appointment setting role. Well, it's in the handouts and it's also in the appointment generating miracle, that program, right? Here's the mission of the position. Here's all the job responsibilities, and here's 6 measures of success. Results generated, 35 qualified appointments per month. That's it. That is their quota. 21 is a minimum to keep their job. So you want to have, here's your quota, but here's the minimum. If you go below this, I can't pay you anymore because you're not producing the ROI that I need. And so this document is up there in the appointment generating miracle, and this is what I mean. You want to have this kind of clarity. And before I hire a sales rep, now this is the SDR, but it doesn't matter. Outside sales hunter, account manager, whatever it is, sit down and think about what are the specific things I want you to do and be as detailed as you can. Don't say do QBRs. It could say we want you to have at least 98% of our customers you should meet with them every single quarter, and you should generate this many sales. You got to be very, very, very specific. And then work an activity plan backwards. Again, so backwards planning. Here we go. If they have a $5,000 per month in new MRR, you hired an outside salesperson, they're a hunter. They got to bring in $5,000 a month. And by the way, for a hunter, I would actually look at it quarterly because some months they might have none and some months they might have other. So $5,000 a month, which is $15,000 per quarter or $60,000 per year, that is your quota. If your average client is $19.50, I'm pulling numbers from earlier, you need 2 to 3 new MRR clients per month on average. If 35% of first-time appointments close, you need 6 to 9 new opportunities per month or 2 per week. And if your rep can convert 4% of the prospects he talks to, Charles, and your guy that you're going to hire, he needs to prospect 200 companies, no less than 50 per week. So if I'm hiring that outside salesperson and my numbers are this, I'm pulling the averages, but your numbers are different. And you got to sit down and say, Bubba, you got to be calling 50 people per week, and you got to get to where you have at least 6 to 9 new opportunities per month, about 2 per week. So when we sit on the Monday morning sales meeting, and I'm saying, how many dials did you make? How many people did you talk to? How many appointments did you set? How many opportunities did you open? If we sit down week 1 and he says, well, I only made 30 dials, well, why'd you make only 30 dials? You got to make 50. If you don't make 50, now next week, you got to make 70. So you're going to make 70 this week? Yeah, I'm going to make 70 this week. We come back next week, and I say, how many did you make? And he says, we made 50. Well, why didn't you make 70? Now you're in the hole again, right? By the 4th week, if they're not picking this up, they're gone. Because I don't need to wait 6 months. If they're not willing to do, you manage the activity. Not, and then we navigate. Maybe they're making 80 calls, but they're not getting the appointments. All right, well, let's look at who you're calling on and what you're saying, and let's try and fix that, right? Keep making 80 calls. But we got to get you to where you have 6 to 9 new opportunities and 2 to 3 MRR clients per month. We got 2 a week, 2 FTAs every week. Do you have your 2 appointments on Monday morning? Do you have your 2 appointments? No, I do not. What are you going to do to get those 2 appointments? Give me your plan. Come up with a plan with them. If they're a salesperson, they need to come up with that plan. That's their job. Now, you help them, but they got to come up with that plan, right? And before I hire them, I'm going over this plan, and we are going to say, let's talk about the plan when we hire you, how you're going to get to your quota. Before I hire you, not after. So they come in, they know this is what they got to do. They help build this plan. And now they got to execute, and that's where the management comes in. You got to make sure they're executing, all right? So before you hire, go over the backwards planning. If they need to generate their own leads, tell them that in advance. You got to generate your own leads. We're going to try and help you with the marketing, but you got to do it on your own. If they need to clean and build their own list, tell them that in the interview and put it on their scorecard. And if you're going to give them inbound leads, if you say, we're going to give you inbound leads, be very conservative, because if you tell somebody we're going to generate and give you inbound leads and you don't quantify how many, they're going to come in thinking, I'm going to get 20 inbound leads every week, and they show up and you're getting 1, and they're going to go, well, this place sucks, and it's all going to fall apart, okay? And then provide actual training and playbooks. Things like, how do you get, the backwards planning, I can tell you, is like the most important, but you don't have to get it perfect. Let's say you go and you hire an SDR, you hire an outside sales rep. Cobble it together, and every week when you have your sales meeting, identify one section and write it and improve it. So things like list cleaning, prospecting for appointments, confirming appointments. So as you do those things, and then start riding shotgun with them on sales calls, they're next to you, they can start documenting the process as well. So they can help you build the playbook as you're training them, as you're onboarding them. So you don't have to get it perfect. If easier, another thing you can do for training, just record a webinar, do a Zoom meeting, and record these here's how you put together a proposal. Here's how you update the CRM. Here's how you do this, whatever it is. And then you can have somebody do the documentation. And once you hire a sales manager, then it's going to be on them, okay, to write those playbooks. And then you got to have weekly sales meetings. All right, I recommend having it Monday morning, the exact same time every Monday morning, 60 to no more than 90 minutes. And this is how we run our sales meeting. Start by reporting where is everybody on goals, any new updates, any new campaigns, what problems or challenges, what is your action plan this week, and then I document our discussion. This was a question somebody asked me the other day. How do you keep this track of all this? I use Basecamp. Now, I'm not saying it's great. It's just what I use. And it's a big, giant checklist they have access to, I have access to. And you can see what we do is we say, okay, March, here's everybody on the team, and here's their goals. And we all are on the meeting, and we're all reporting our goals, and I'm the one typing it in. I like to do that because it kind of makes it like, I don't know, it helps me track it better. It's just my preference. Q1, here's all your goals. Where are we on Q1 goals? Karen, give me an update on boot camp tickets. Missy, give me an update on your SDRs. Chris, give me an update on, you see what I mean? Like, this is Q1, and then every meeting, I take notes on that specific meeting. And when you click into Basecamp, this is where you're going to see details. I'm showing you my real Basecamp. This is a real sales meeting. It's like, I mean, some of them are way longer, but you get an idea. Hey, we had a webinar on March 30th. We got a double points for the, like you can see on here, double points for the webinar if they watch. So the SDRs, because I wanted them to get people on that, I gave them double points if they got people on that webinar. You know, so you can see this is real. This is what I do every week, all right? And then the daily sales huddle, Missy and Chris are my sales managers. They have a daily huddle with the team, and they have it at the same time. It doesn't last more than 20 minutes, and this is our process for that. Start out with wins, review activities, really, really quick every morning, touch base. Keep up on it. Like I told Missy, we should never get to the end of the week and see somebody didn't make $500 because we should know by Tuesday morning, Monday they only made 80. Like we don't have to wait till Monday, right? Because we're what did you do yesterday? Give me an update. Give me a quick update every day. The quicker you pulse, the faster that wheel will turn, okay? One-on-one meetings, it's a private meeting with each rep, 60 to 90 minutes. Here's our process for that.